So I want to show you some examples from Jung's own work. And I want to show you some of his artwork because Jung, you know, he intellectually studied this topic, but he was also a practicing artist. And they were very much a part of his healing journey. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I do want to explain how he made his paintings. They were something that he called active imagination experiments. And so this is what Jung was looking for. There's got to be something in the middle between being fully awake and conscious in the world and then being asleep and dreaming. There's got to be a third thing in the middle that would allow us to have access to this information, either in the personal unconscious or the collective unconscious. And he said, hey, this is how you do it, active imagination. So he conducted a series of experiments, and let me just, for simplicity's sake, say it like this. First of all, he was having a crisis in his life because he had just lost his mentor and his entire professional society when he broke from Freud. But he said, look, what I'll do at the end of the day, go back to my office, practice yoga, close my eyes, imagine that I am in a landscape, and I will start to interact with whoever or whatever I see and have conversations with these creatures. And then when I come out of my reverie, I will record my experiences in a journal. And then later I will go back and paint and capture in image the things that I experienced in my imagination. Now, he believed that this process, I mean, look, the artists that are in this room already know this, but this process was a transformative process. This was a part of his healing journey, is working with images in that way I just described. So let me show you what they look like. This is Jung's divine child. I mean, he was well aware of the stories. I mean, he had just written a damn book about the whole thing. And this is essentially a portrait of himself as a divine child. Now, do you guys see this, the black and white around him? He described that as a snake. And the mouth of the snake is right up there near that little baby's mouth. And so what I love about this piece of art is it looks like a little, I don't know, what do you call this, a child in utero? Or a little
embryo? Yeah,
an embryo. But it's also a little formed creature. And it's in this, I don't know what we call this, it's kind of a liminal space where it's not in this world, it's some other world. But this is what he predicts, is if we have a divine child, Patrick, let me finish my thought. Okay. If we have a divine child experience, like for example, him breaking from Freud and saying, I see the world in a whole new way. We know the prediction is going to be, he's going to get into a hero's journey, right? Because if I have a new way that is being born and I'm coming out into the world, I have to expect adversaries. And so this is the little baby when he grows up and becomes a young adult. And of course, his first task is to slay the beast. Now for Jung, he was very open, at least in his close circle of friends, that his beast was depression. In today's mental health system, he would be diagnosed as having a major depressive disorder with psychotic features. He would probably be. Dan, do you see the humor in that?
Yeah. Upside down dragon. Disorder with psychotic features sounded very familiar.
Okay. And so, but also a generalized anxiety disorder, and he suffered from panic attacks. And so, for him, this dragon that was eating the sun represented those kinds of aspects of himself that he had to confront if he was going to move on and carry this new vision out into the world. Now, notice these chunks that he's cutting out of the monster there. That's going to come into play in the next painting. And also notice that this blood that's falling down on this guy, Jung described this as a kind of baptism in the blood of my beast.
This is how you rearrange the furniture inside your psyche. Is working with the powerful images and archetypes from world history. Okay, let me show you the next painting. This one is very significant. This is the carcass of that dragon creature. In every place he carved out a chunk of flesh. When he puts his sword down and kicks his water up and nourishes it, that's where the new comes, the newness sprouts and fosters, and now instead of blood, you just these red flowers. Jung often referenced the temple. We'll see this in a lot of paintings. But this represented for him the sacred work of the psyche, the sacred work of our lives, where we bring in the new divine children into our lives. We foster them. We pick up our sword. We address our shadow. We confront our adversaries. And when we do successfully, and then we foster the divine in us, instead of the beast, we get the flowers. And I mean, I think this is a beautiful depiction of Jung's work. I mean, this is what he was trying to do in bringing in a new kind of psychology. Let me show you the next one in the series. This is my favorite. Okay, up until this point, the places where Jung is a character, I mean, we wouldn't say it's him, it's really a character of himself. His self has been in liminal spaces, maybe in utero, maybe even some other dimension. But look, after his transformation, after he confronts the shadow self, and then he fosters the divine and feeds it, then he bursts back out into the world, transformed with his new way of being. I just love that. I mean, this painting is everything that we've said about visionary art. I do want to point something out. If you're not familiar with this painting, first of all, there's the snake. It's still there, but it's become incorporated into his clothing, or his uniform, if you will. This is a world, this is the modern world of 1914, probably, when he painted this. There's an automobile there. There's soldiers practicing, target practicing. There's modern weaponry. I mean, this was the beginning of World War I. But in the shadow back here, there's a medieval world. There's a castle, and then this boat that would be associated with the Middle Ages. And this was his commentation on, we always live in two worlds. We always have a past that is embedded in our present. And literally, folks, this area of Tucson, I mean, if you know the discovery of that Presidio about 20 years ago, literally, these buildings are built on top of other civilizations. Let me just complete my thought. Either the Spanish or the indigenous people that were here before the Spanish. So, what did you mean by that, Patrick? Are you?
Yes, my family's been here for 10,000 years.
Right on there. That's what he's talking about. That our world presently is embedded on the world of your family before us. Absolutely. Of course. I can't remember what the next painting. Oops. Oh yeah, here's the final. I mean, if you could imagine, Jung would have these paintings in his office, and he just talked about the paintings and say, "Yeah, what do you think of that? What do you think of the color there? What do you think about that snake?" They just talk a little casually about his art, and then they would go into the business of therapy. But folks, this is when Jung gets his wings, just like Gilgamesh. he has arrived at the place of wisdom from his journey. He's taken that divine child, born it out into the world, defended it, made a place for it, fostered it, shared it with others, and now he has this true wisdom, just like Gilgamesh and many, many other heroes from legends. And he's standing again on that temple that he, used frequently to represent the sacred work of the psyche, of finding our way in the world through all of these archetypal experiences. Okay, I have another series of paintings that I'd like to conclude with that come from Jung, and they represent archetypal work. They represent, I have four more, they represent a warning to us as postmoderns when we try to interact with the ancient world. We often have difficulties, and he anticipates that. But before I make the transition, any comment? Mike, your hand is up.
I recall that you said he was a massive contradictions. I read that. And in this painting, he has reached a spiritual pinnacle. But the snake is still in the image.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good point. Did you guys hear what he said? That he said, first of all, Jung himself claimed that he was a massive contradiction. And so, check this out. That snake that was around the little embryo and that maybe was a part of his transformation, and he slayed his beast and he went on this journey, but lo and behold, it's still there in his life. It hasn't gone anywhere. Lori.
Well, from my particular goddess point of view, the snake's a very good sign. So maybe he was.
So Lauren is saying, hey, he's
so
doing great. He's doing great now.
Maybe he saw it as a symbol of yours. It was positive.
I think he was quick. He would be quick to say that the strife in life is as important as good in creating our path.
Well, then check this out. That is a sculpture by Ed, and actually I have it right here. It's this beautiful little piece. But I think this is one way of describing that cycle that we've talked about, where we give birth, we step out heroically, we mature, and then we start all over again. So this Ouroboros is really a nice symbol for the continual life process of our cycle, our psychological development. And I want to give you this warning that you gave, and just tell me what you think about this. This is Gilgamesh, though he names this guy as Izdabar, but as it turns out, those names are interchangeable for this character. So during Jung's imagination exercises, one exercise that he did was imagining digging deeper and deeper into the earth. And of course, this was a metaphor for deeper and deeper and deeper into the unconscious, deeper and deeper into the collective unconscious, so that he could have interactions. Let me tell you the title of this painting. It's called The Remains of Earlier Temples. So he's rifling around through the remains of earlier temples, and of course there's worms all around, there's dirt all around, there's crocodiles. And let me find my pointer. I think I misplaced that somewhere. Here's you, this tiny little guy.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, here's the past. This is all the wisdom of the Mesopotamia. This is Indian. This is the Chinese medicine traditions, all of the wisdoms of the East. And here's you confronting this giant from the past. And he wants to have a conversation with Izdubar. You know, essentially he says, hey, there you are. I want to get to know you. But this is what happens. The more, this is a gorgeous painting as well.
It looks like outside.
This is, when Jung tries to talk to this past giant, the giant gets sick. and begins to die. And Jung says, I have poisoned him with my Western thinking, my limited one-sided views of the rational, the Western civilization that is in my being. When I speak to this creature, I poison him and I kill him. Do you guys see what I'm saying where I'm warning? Whereas we're postmodern people and coming from a Western society, we can expect to struggle if we are going to absorb some of the ancient wisdoms, the ancient ways of seeing and being. Well, Jung has an idea. Since this is imaginal, he says, look, I will just pick the giant up as if he were a balloon and carry him around. It's my imagination. I'll save this guy and carry him with me down into the town. Apparently there's a town down there behind the giant. And this is how he represents that. This is a beautiful mandala. And he says, okay, this is all the wisdom of that ancient world. And I'm going to put it into an egg. I'm going to condense it, put it in my pocket, and then bring it inside this building where he was going to sleep for the night.
Why is the star black?
It's a damn good question. What do you guys think?
You could see it as a symbol of Christianity on top of ancient religions. And blackening the star sort of brings the ancient beliefs back to the forefront.
Oh, nice. I love Stephen's take. I was just going to say dark night of the soul, but I'm going to go with what he said. It's an important. But Patrick, it's an important observation that star, light isn't black. I mean, shouldn't it be full of light? It's distinct in that it's black. I love all of the roiling fire kind of feeling in this. And all of that intricate design that is essentially Egyptian. And Jung comes by this honestly, having studied Egyptian iconography. Your hand is up.
Black in some mystical traditions has to do with the boundless dimension, a vast, open, boundless space, potentiality.
Patrick, that's another good answer you just got.
Black matter.
Black matter, boundlessness, open potential, open possibilities. So he brings the egg into the building, and then he recites poetry. He prays. He sings. He does all of these little incantations. That's the chapter name for the book. He does all of these things to bring that ancient wisdom to life into his world as a postmodern person.
Dude.
I mean, isn't that a beautiful image? And there's the little egg, and here he is bowing and praying and
Checkerboard.
there's this very interesting design on the floor, and there's this nod back to the Egyptians. There's a boat with the sun sailing across the ocean. But this was Jung's entire point of his journey in the Red Book, that, listen, we can't just read old texts and become divine and enlightened. We can't just go back to the old ways and then have it make perfect sense to us and be usable. No, we're going to have to go through a process like this. We're going to have to acknowledge our limits, our one-sidedness. We're going to have to interact with the old stories and those old images and make them new. And folks, the reason I want to conclude with this is that I feel like that's what the artists that we are showing here at the library, that's exactly what you guys are doing. Is you're working with these images, either knowingly or unknowingly, and bringing them into the postmodern world so that they have potency. Hey, in closing, I want to say we have pamphlets over there on that table. If you're interested in the kinds of things that we talked about today, and you'd like to engage in more of these, there's a pamphlet